Friends, as an educator, I am put into a lot of spaces involving parents and also involving people, friends who have children. And the common question or the common thing gets discussed there is sometimes many of them fail to relate to their children. Yeah. And because the origin of the thought is from inability to relate to children, it becomes a kind of a blaming game. Today's video is about how not to get into that blame game, but still be able to meaningfully relate with your children. So keep watching because I'm going to give you 9 simple tips from my experience of dealing with children, maybe a few thousands of them for the last 18 years. And then I'm going to tell you how you can implement them in your own setup, in your own homes, in your own communities. Hey folks, welcome to CSKSpeaks. I'm CSK and I'm an educator. Let's get started. The common question is, today's children are quite fast. And because of that thought, we end up disconnecting from them. Of course they are fast because the world is fast. Look around us. Who says that we are in a slow pace? We are running from pillar to post, left, right and center every day of the week. Tell me, do you like to keep patience when it comes to what you want in life? No. You want it like today. You want it now. Now, when you have tuned yourself to that kind of a pace, of course, children are going to learn the same thing. This is not me saying. This is research. This is loads and loads of research done by famous psychologists, biologists and neuroscience experts, and they say that the first 7 years are very, very critical in the development of the brain of a toddler. Let me explain. First 7 years, the synaptic connections between neurons in your brain are formed, and the simple thing is when they look at something, when they experience something, when they feel something, that's when these neurons, the synaptic connections are made. And when the neurons are fired, they kind of cement those feelings and store it. I don't want to get into neuroscience for you here, but you got to understand this. The first 7 years is simply critical in the formation of the child. In fact, it's like writing a program into the child's brain or mind. When you key in that program, the remaining life, the child begins to run by the program which is already coded. Now here's an opportunity and also a problem. If you have a child below 7 years, this is your great chance to write in the same program and the best program possible so that the child can take it forward. Now, if you don't have a child who is 7 years and below, next what do we do? Well, I have solutions even for them, but that's not going to be discussed today, but I'll come back to you later on that. But if you want to relate to your children, these are some of the 9 simple tips I'm going to give you. But don't worry. Those of you who thought, oh, we don't have a 7-year-old kid or a younger than 7-year-old kid in our house, what do we do? This video is not applicable to me. Don't get disappointed. There are 2 simple ways you can reprogram, and I'm going to come to that as well towards the end. So first things first, how can I program my child so that I don't have to worry about the child's future? Let's start from where we began. We began by saying today's children are very fast. They are quite adept with technological advancements, with changes and so on and so forth. Let's start from there. Why are they adept? They are adept because you are adept. Of course, you might be a technology migrant, but you still know your way to maneuver around this technology, be it the Alexa, be it the iPad, be it the smart television, be it the refrigerator, be it the remote control, be it your mobile phone. And looking at all of this, your child is making those connections. Remember this, the first and the most effective way of learning is imitation. Now, when this is true, next we go into programming. And the first technique to relate to your child is to realize, is to understand that the child's natural language is play. Let me explain this in a bit. See, I and you may have a language of maybe English to communicate, but we are not using English as a language. We are using thoughts. Yes? We are using thoughts. Today we are discussing relating to children. So the thought of how can I relate to my child against how are you relating to your child is what is getting exchanged between the two of us, isn't it? English is just a medium. Same way, your child and you may share the same space and you may be kind of enjoying that togetherness, but the child's natural language is play. So, if you want to relate to your child, you got to get down to play with your child, not be a mute spectator or a silent observer. Yeah. So, get into play with your child, and that's where you relate. We all know, as we grow up, even sports is a great way of teaching life lessons, isn't it? But I don't want to make it so complicated for a tiny toddler, but just get into the natural language of the child, that is play. Technique number 2 is this: children's growth cannot be speeded up. Yeah, of course, in times of age compression, fast pace, children are quite fast in picking up tools and techniques and gadgets and other things. No, the growth takes its time. And that is where my reservations against all those of parents and people who try to treat their children as products. They want to showcase the talents in front of the world at a tiny age. In fact, with the community where I live, I was shocked to see small kids like 6-year-old, 7-year-old with tennis rackets. Even biologically, it is not right. Because the human body structure, the bone structure is not formed till you're 9, till you're 10. How can you put that kind of a stress on those brittle bones? So let's not get into speeding up the growth process. So the child's growth cannot be speeded up. So which means you got to be patient. And I'm not asking you to be patient forever. I'm asking you to be patient till say 9 years, till 10 years. The first 7 years are very, very crucial. So that's the second thing. So keep that in mind and then relate to your child. Third, children have a right to remain silent. Yes, you heard that right. They're not toys. They're not people who are tuned to react and respond to everything you ask. They have a right to remain silent. And that's where the adult in you has to be more cooperative, has to understand the fact that, okay, I am asking a question or I am expecting the child to do something, but if the child does not answer, if the child is not interested, it's absolutely okay. But no, we don't want that. We want to turn around and say, I am asking you and I want you to respond to me because I am the adult here and I am in charge. I am sorry. That's not how it works. So please understand this. If you want to relate, you want to be a better parent, you want to be a better teacher, you want to be a better adult around your children, relate to them with this thought that they have the right to remain silent. So these 3 techniques will help you to get started in getting related to your students or your children. Now, technique number 4. Technique number 4 is children are naturally resilient. Yes, they don't give up. They don't give up. I mean, you all have experiences and examples where you tell them to do something and they fail at it, they end up doing it till such time that they succeed and they come back to you and show you that. That resilience process may be annoying to you. Like, remember the writing on the wall, the scribbling, the scratching by the children? What are they trying to do? They're not trying to spoil your walls. They are trying to get hold of the tripodal grip and then write on the wall, and they want to show their piece of art to you that they did it. They are seeking your attention. They are seeking your appreciation. So by default, children are resilient. You need to use that to your advantage, to their advantage. If they are picking up your phone and trying to open that particular app and trying to figure out how YouTube works and their favorite cartoon comes, don't see them as disturbance. See them as their resilience. They're trying and they are trying that without getting bored, without giving up. So by default, by nature, they are resilient. All we have to do as adults is to tap into that resilience and harness that so that they carry that resilience to the rest of their life. And look at the, the sadness. Look at the confusion. As we grow up, we want to become resilient. People tell us, you go to any motivational lecture, you go to any conference, any workshop, any book you read on self-help, it talks about never give up, become resilient. By nature, we are all resilient. The problem is, because somebody around us did not encourage that, we start thinking that that's a wrong thing to have. And by the time we become 15, 17, 19, we forget becoming or being resilient. So by nature, children are resilient. The next one, children are unique and they are worthy of your respect. It may be your child. He or she may be your own child, but they are different, they are unique, and they are worthy of your respect. Respect cannot be mistaken for love and affection. Love is important, affection is important, but respect is also important. So children are unique and they are worthy of your respect. Start putting this in your mind, because this will help you to become a better parent, a better adult around your children. So that's another important aspect of relating to children. Then, children are people. Yes, it may sound very simple, but it is very profound. What do I mean by this? They are independent individuals. They deserve their space. They deserve their privacy. They deserve their existence. We cannot treat, I remember children being dumped. Yes, I'm using the word dumped into car without even any respect for their space. No, you can't do that. You cannot, because the experience which they are going through, of course, physically they may take 1/4 of a seat which is available, but the experience they grow or they take back is they are taken for granted. They are abused. They may not know these words, but the experience, the feelings which they generate inside because of that will stay with them for a long, long way or a long, long time. So treat children as people, as how you will treat any other person, with compassion, with respect to their privacy, respect to their space, with respect to their opinion, with respect to their feelings. That's very important. No matter if the child is just 2-year-old, 5-year-old, 7-year-old, it doesn't matter. They have an existence. Let me make this simple. Do they not have an Aadhaar card if you are in India? Do they not have a fingerprint? Yes or no? Do they not have a name? Then they are people, right? They're people like you and me. They need their space. So that's the next way to relate to people. Then, inherently, children have a tendency for growth and maturity. Yeah, they all want to grow. That's why, suddenly one day the child this child starts to crawl, and then the child starts to walk, and sometimes the child cooks something in the imaginary kitchen and brings you. Why? The child wants to do what the mother is doing. The child wants to do what the father is doing. The child wants to do what the grandmother is doing, like puja or some kind of meditation, whatever, right? So they inherently want to grow and mature, get matured. You have to harness that. You have to tell. But what we do, we end up saying them that no, you're not old enough. You're not big enough. You will do it later. When is that later? Of course, they can do a miniature version of that, right? It's in us to minimize it and make it relevant to their level, because they want to grow. And remember, only when they keep maturing and growing, they can do big things. They are destined for big things. If you keep a lid on their growth for a long, long time, after that, it's too late. Remember that conditioning story from the elephant. When the elephant is small, they tie that elephant with a tiny rope to that particular gate or to that particular rod or pole or whatever. So the elephant tries for a couple of times, or maybe 15-20 times, and it realizes that it cannot uproot the tree or the pole or the gate. So it gives up. Now you go to big temples in South India, in Tamil Nadu, in Kerala, big massive creatures are tied with a small tiny rope to a nail on the floor. And the elephant does not move an inch. Why? The conditioning is, I cannot uproot this. That's the problem. That's the problem. You cannot keep a lid on your child's growth and maturity for a long time unnecessarily. You cannot. Next, children are capable for positive self-direction. Yes. Children have a sense of right or wrong inherent in their DNA. They know it. But what you have to do is to wait for them to realize and then reinforce. Yes, you heard that. Wait for them to realize and then reinforce. But what we do is we don't even allow them to realize. We just reinforce and say, you can't do this. You should not be doing this. Stop it. No. Let them do it. Let them realize, and then you reinforce. The best way to reinforce is to ask questions, is to make them reflect, and children will reflect because they are inherently programmed or wired for positive self-direction. Right? So let's quickly recap. Children have the right to remain silent. Children's growth cannot be speeded up. Children's natural language is play. Children are unique and worthy of self-respect. Children are people. Children are resilient, and children have an inherent tendency towards growth and maturity. Children are capable of positive self-direction. Last one. Children will take an experience to where they need to be. Yeah. For the mind of a child, it's all about learning by doing. And when they do, they learn, and when they do it more often, they start liking it, and that's when they say that I want to do this again and again and again. In fact, all of us as adults, we enjoy things only after we have done. We may like certain things. For example, in my case, I always wanted to try Zumba. I said, okay, it's a great way of doing it. I'm not at dancing, but I wanted to go and try Zumba. I tried, but I could not enjoy, so I gave up. But as against cricket, I love to play cricket. Even at this age, you give me a bat and a ball, I'm there in the ground all day. So it's only when I learn, when I experience, I take it up. So children have that particular way of taking up something by experience. So what you have to do to relate to children, give them as much exposure as possible. You don't have prejudices in your mind saying this may not work, that may not work, our family will not encourage this, or my background does not support that, or what will the neighbors think, or what will my relatives say. No. Give them as much exposure because they experience and then they start relating and then they start doing it. So these are the simple ways how you can relate to your children. I hope you found this video interesting and maybe you can start implementing it. Now coming back to those few people who say that we don't have a child who is 7 years or less, how do I reprogram them? Technique number 1 there is repetition. Yes, create habits and make them repeat it, because then the whole rewiring will take place and then they'll forget the wrong way of wiring and then they will embrace the right way of wiring. So repetition is one important thing. And 2, reflection. Make them speak out. Make them speak out because there is nothing like realization. When they realize and they reflect, they will start changing their actions, and you can see that. These are the only 2 ways which you can use if you have a child who is in the teens to relate to them and to make them achieve their true potential. Thank you very much. I hope you found this interesting and valuable. So do give me your feedback as to how things are, and if you have anything in particular which I need to explain further, I will create another video for that. Thank you so much.